И с вами OneFJB. Сегодня вместе с вами мы продолжаем проходить игру SpellForce. Итак, мы находимся в Нексусе. Кто смотрел предыдущую часть, тот знает, что нас там осаждали. Нексус, придурки с праведного света или какой он там. Сегодня же в части нам нужно будет со всеми поговорить. Со всеми балбесами, но мы пойдем вот отсюда. Нам нужно со всеми поговорить. К нам присоединился Ангар Муландире, а его сестра завладел разумом кто-то. Кто-то завладел разумом его сестры.
The Shaper's magical and technological prowess remains unrivaled.
Now would you look
Вот,
at that?
поговорите. А тут есть хоть вот, помогите. Не надо с ним разговаривать, что ли?
Tahar, thank Nihal if you're awake. For a while I wasn't sure you'd make it. How do you feel? Out on the battlefield we didn't really get the chance to talk.
Failed.
I just found out that my mother is a Shaper and that she's still alive. And now Rondar Lacane took her. How do you think I feel?
Bad, I assume. Sorry, that was probably a stupid question to ask. It's a tragedy. The purity on the loose, with the power of the Archfire in the Harbinger's hands. Who could have seen that coming? For what it's worth, I'm sorry I had to go through this. I truly am.
Be that as it may, all that matters now is that we stop him. What about you, Iskrim? I doubt whatever bargain you struck with Lacane still stands. You're still here. So I guess you aren't planning on leaving.
Me? No, of course not. Where would I go, Tahar? There's no way of knowing what the Purity would do if they caught me. He wanted to kill you, so maybe Lacane doesn't want to leave any witnesses. Not to mention that we're still in the ancient Shaper city, full of marvels waiting to be discovered.
Well, I'm glad you're able to see it that way.
A frown hasn't helped anyone yet, has it? There's, one more thing I wanted to ask you. It's about your mother. About Andra.
Ask.
I'm not sure how to say this, but she was a Shaper. A living Shaper.
What are you getting at?
All tragedy aside, you have to understand how fascinating this is. A Shaper who survived through the Aeons. And as if that weren't enough, you even turn out to be related. I have so many questions, Tahar, so many questions. Iria said that the moment Andra and you melded, she made you see something. Fragments of her past. Now, I can't help but wonder, what was it? Did you see Mullandire in all its former glory?
Iskrim, the Shaper culture is the last thing that's on my mind right now. Please understand that.
Alright, I'm sorry. I know I can be a bit tactless. Let's talk later.
Так, поговорите. Ядро Нексуса. Меня гномила, ты не выше. Так, Муландир, Нексус. Гор, Ирия и... Покинуть. Гор. Ирия. Навестите тело своей матери в Нексусе. Где оно? Навестите тело своей матери в Нексусе. Где оно? Это оно? Шли. Как ее в Нексус-то занесло?
She's breathing, but her spirit is gone. Damn you, Lacane.
Окей. Ирия. Смешной шлем, вот этот еще куда не шло. Ну где ты там? Я же слышу топ-топ.
Ah, I was hoping you'd come by. That was quite the surprise visit, wasn't it? The Harbinger couldn't have picked a better time for his attack.
I guess you could say that. How's your injury? That blast from the barrier looked quite painful.
The blast? Oh yeah, sure. I'm as good as new. One of the perks of being a light mage. Tahar, I'm sorry. For everything.
What do you mean?
Well, what you discovered in that dungeon. I didn't see that coming, honestly. I mean, I'd always felt you were different, but an experiment of your father? I would have never guessed. And now that bastard Lacane took your mother. It's just... one tragedy follows another. Now I feel almost ridiculous thinking about my supposed problems.
A bit of normality would be nice for a change.
I can imagine. Tell me, Tahar, if you had had the choice, would you have wanted to know? About your mother and how you were born?
Yes. It's always better to know the truth.
Is it? Sometimes I wonder if the truth doesn't just make it all worse. Anyway, Shaper or not, it's good to have you back. Honestly, there were times when I was worried you wouldn't ever wake up again.
I'm touched.
You better be. Anyway, in case you were wondering, I'm not planning to leave now. If you need my help, I'll be here.
Thanks, Iria. I really appreciate it.
Great. And now that we've got that out of the way, you should get some more sleep. You still look like a walking corpse. Don't make a habit out of it. I'll talk to you later. Corporal? Need anything?
You never told me why you fled Finan Mir.
Fair enough. You've given me little reason to distrust you, so... oh well. Let's just get this over with. I already told you about my father, how to him I had always been more of an asset. Well, after my father died, I decided to become a novice.
A novice?
Someone aspiring to be a priest of Ellen. I don't know why I did it. It was something my father had always considered a backup plan if an arranged marriage wouldn't work out. Part of it was probably because obeying my father was all I knew at that time.
But something happened.
Yes. In my first year, I fell in love. That crazy, hot-blooded, head-over-the-heels kind of love that the bards all sing about. The boy felt the same way, and for the next year it was, well, it was perfect. It was the two of us against the world. Maybe you know that feeling.
And I guess your romance didn't end well.
You guess right. But it was more than that. You know, I told you how I always felt estranged around other people. I knew how to put on a smile, how to make myself fit in, but it was always fake. Shallow. With him, it was different. Dramatic as it may sound, I thought I had finally found someone who understood me. Then there was the novitiate. Despite all the time I sunk into doing the crazy things lovers often do, I never failed as a student. Or, no, let's put it another way. I was the best, in every aspect.
Which didn't sit well with some people.
No. And eventually, they made sure I felt it. They excluded me from everything, stared at me when I walked by. It hurt, yes, but I convinced myself it didn't. I've always been good at that.
Did it take a toll on your relationship with that boy?
More than that. My lover's friends started manipulating him. Telling him that I only saw him as my pet, that he was a failure, and that I only kept him around to feel good about myself.
What? And he listened to them? That's pathetic.
Maybe. But he was young, same as I, and young people often do irrational things. You see, we novices all knew that only 4 out of 20 will be granted priesthood at the end of our training. And being a failed novice leaves you with a mark you'll keep for the rest of your life. It all looked peaceful on the surface, but beneath that it was an arena. And these other novices, they made sure my friend became aware of that fact. To him, I started being a rival as well. And do you want to know the biggest joke of it all? I didn't see it. The idea that, I don't know, that he would listen to them. That he would ever reach a point where he'd put what we had below his hurt pride and his fears. It never crossed my mind.
So what happened?
Well, he knew I was curious by nature, so one night when we were in bed together, he suddenly asked me if I wanted to go on an adventure. Of course I said yes. So we snuck out into the cloister's courtyard. It was beautiful. The night was cloudless, and the old oak, our cloister shrine, had just begun to bloom. We made our way to the library building, but of course the door was locked. Out of nowhere, he pulled a key, grinning at me, and opened it. It was insane. As you can imagine, priests aren't known for being lenient towards these kinds of trespassings. We were risking our novitiate, and I didn't even know the reason, but I liked it. And we were doing it together, weren't we? It was exciting. He took my hand and we went to the High Priestess's office. We opened the door and went inside, and there he finally told me what we were here for, to open the grimoire.
Whatever that is, it sounds like that was a terribly bad idea.
It was. It was a stupid idea. And if I hadn't been so blind, so bloody naive, I should have seen it by then. But I didn't.
What did he ask you to do?
To open it and try to read one of the spells. He teased me. Told me that I wouldn't be able to do it. You know, saying it like that. It sounds so bloody stupid, doesn't it? But again, I was too blind. I laughed. I wanted to impress him, so I gave him a kiss. Opened the page and started saying the words. Long story short, I lost control. The spell was too much for me to handle and it misfired. One moment I was staring at the pages, the next one the library was aflame and my lover was gone.
How far did that fire spread?
Not far. It was put out before it could do real damage. But, of course, that was the end of novitiate. I was thrown into the cell of shame and sentenced to 12 years of polishing prayer banks and cleaning floors in the shrine.
But you never did polish those prayer banks, am I right?
No. In the night after the trial, they still let me sleep in my chamber. Thoughtlessness, I suppose, or maybe they simply didn't care. I got my things, left, and never came back. So, here it is, the whole truth. No dark secrets, no assassinations, no necromantic rituals. Just a plain old broken heart. Compared with all that shit you had to go through, it almost sounds ludicrous.
It doesn't. Being betrayed by someone you trust often hits the hardest.
Yeah, I guess. It's just, I don't get it. How could he give all that up? I mean, there was something between us, you know? Something rare, something precious. But no, he threw it all away for his fucking vanity. But in a way, it's just a continuation of what I've always known. Wherever I am, I'm a stranger. People don't like me, and I don't like them.
For what it's worth, I'm glad our paths crossed.
Yeah, me too, Corporal. I'd like some space now. I hope you don't mind. Let's talk later.
С Роханом и Анной и Андергастом. Но они все на улке, да? Пойдем с ними поговорим. Потом вернемся, поговорим с Гором, ну и поговорим с Ангаром о дальнейших действиях. Опять эта часть у нас будет чисто болтология. Болтология, болтология. Чисто болтология. Ну чё, таки долгие? Может, что-нибудь продадим, еще зайдем к торговцам, если они там все еще стоят, не разрушили ничего. Эти придурки, когда штурмовали Nexus. Ну быстрее это никак нельзя, товарищи коменданта. Эльфы-то где у нас? Дельфин. Вот у нас эльфы где. Конечно же, эльфы у нас самые Давай, иди сюда. Че больше никто не оденет? Слышу, ты топ-топ делаешь.
Interesting.
What is it?
I would like to train the elf.
Well, if you have the coin, I might be able to help. Let's see.
Ты зелье здоровья, зелье мороза. Так, что это? Ничего больше нет. Применить. Окей. Все, идем перетирать. Кто тут у нас стоит? Кто это? Иоанна. Кто нам нужен? Иоанна, Рохан, Эндергаст. Иоанна, Эндергаст и Рохан. Ты пойдешь, нет, с ней говорить, ты придурок.
Yes, Corporal? How can I help?
About you being an assassin. You said that you might be willing to tell me more about that at another time. How about now?
I'm still not certain. The question really is, do you want to know? It might change something.
Then maybe we should leave it like that.
Probably.
About you being an
I'm still not certain.
such as...
Your perception of me. It is your choice.
Well, I wouldn't have asked other...
All right. Do you remember what I told you about that man who bought me from the Greyfell Bazaar? My owner? I also told you that after...
I remember. But what does that have to do with your morality?
It's complicated. The incident took place at a festivity. A lot of highly influential people were there, servants of the crown, wealthy merchants, nobles. My master knew all of Greyfell's elites. It must have been close to midnight when a man took me into his chambers. I'd learned to play along years ago because resisting, for some reason, that man wanted me to tell him that I loved him. I did, but he kept on telling me that I should say it like I really mean it. I had almost lost consciousness when I felt something break. I don't know how else to put it. It was as if my mind simply cracked open, like a crystal ball smashed.
I don't follow.
My magic, my dreamweavery, that's when it broke free. You probably don't know this, but the only way to become a dreamweaver is by shattering your mind. You are opening yourself to the thoughts and emotions.
What happened to the man?
I killed him. It wasn't a conscious choice, looking back. I even think that shattering my mind was my body's way of ensuring survival. At first I was disoriented, but then I felt...
To kill him?
Yes. To massacre him. Hear his screams. To see his life taken by my hand. I grabbed a lantern to get back to your original question. That urge, it stuck with me. Ever since then, I've found violence and bloodshed to be ecstatic. Erotic, even. And when I kill someone... Yes. My master introduced me into the craft. Probably because he knew that my dreamweaver... More than that, even. I needed what these new tasks my master sent me on. Of course, I briefly considered changing my profession after my master had his... accident. But I didn't. Killing is something I need. As much as a child needs the love of his mother. If I don't feed my urge...
But... is there no way to cure you?
No, there isn't.
That's a lot to take in.
I know. Now, tell me, Tahar. Do you regret asking me this question? Knowing all this, do you think I'm a monster?
You're not.
Really? That's unexpected. Anyway, I would like some time for myself now. I hope you understand.
Главного задания. О, тут кто-то... А, эти гномы.
The best wares from Kalea to Northampton.
Почерневший молот.
Good choice.
Чё там? 19-21 копьем мы продадим, купим почерневший молот.
Axes, daggers, swords,
Где он?
everything for the wary traveler.
Вот эту хуйню нахуй таскаю.
Farewell.
Что продать? Копье можно продать еще.
Now would you...
Best you talk to my brother. He's good with words. I'm good with the anvil.
Your interest?
Чем можем купить кувалда?
You know how to bargain, don't you?
Мечишку продать можем. Ну чё?
What's next?
Best you talk to my brother. He's... Best you talk to my brother. He's good with words. I'm good with the anvil.
Pleasure doing business with you. Come
Так,
again.
пошли. Андергаст.
Let's see.
Я слышу же, что ты где-то топ-топ-топ делаешь.
Tahar, it is good to see that you have recovered. This place and these people lack guidance.
They did?
Yes, the Lord Marshal tried to assume control, but as you might have expected, he did not have everybody's support. I was even fearing an internal power struggle, and I'm glad it did not come to that. I must say, Tahar, your mother, she is remarkable. I have always wondered what the Shapers look like, and now I do. Though I suppose this is a difficult topic for you. Forgive me if my words were inappropriate.
All that matters is that we save her. We need to stop Lacane and get my mother's...
Yes, this is our objective. Is there anything else you wanted to... Yes? What is it?
I've noticed that you use both white and black magic in combat. I've never seen anyone do that before. Don't the two schools exclude each other?
Normally, yes. The essence of white and of black magic deeply oppose each other. Trying to combine both of them usually has a similar effect on a mage's mind as adding water onto a patch of burning oil. I, however, never had that problem. The first time I found out was at the Arcane University in Greyfell, where I studied. The white magic spell I had cast on a rabbit to heal his wounded paw accidentally killed it. I was very young at that time, and I knew my professor would be upset if he found out, so I channeled my energy on undoing what I had done. As a result, I created an undead rabbit. It immediately went feral, and I put it back to sleep. But rather than feeling the terrible headache that had been described to us as an effect of combining these two schools, I felt a slight sense of, well, exhilaration. I secretly continued these experiments during my studies, and found out that whatever it is that causes this mental discord among normal mages did not affect me.
Do you have an explanation for this?
No, I do not. Maybe it has to do with the way my mind is structured, or maybe it is a simple coincidence.
Huh. Well, that's odd. Where did you grow up? You don't look Nortandian.
I do not, that is correct. I grew up in Imperia.
Imperia? That's a long way from here.
I know, but I hardly have any memories. My parents fled from the Civil War and set over to Northander when I was only 4 years old.
So you were refugees?
Yes, much like many Northandians are now. We lived in the Utran lands, and my parents are still there.
Interesting. You're the first Empyrean I've met.
I'm not surprised.
Back when we met, you told me about an internal disagreement, which led to many of the guild's mages leaving. What exactly happened?
Why do you want to know?
No particular reason. I'm simply curious.
I see. Well, simply put, the guild had two leaders until half a year ago, me and Lena. Lena and a lot of the other mages felt that they could uphold their neutrality no longer without sacrificing their integrity.
You're talking about the persecution of mages?
Yes, I am. As Lena said, they are crucifying us, burning us alive, putting masks on our heads that destroy our minds. If there's something wrong with the world, it's people who keep their heads down because they are afraid to stand in for what's right.
Well, she did have a point.
In her reasoning, she did, yes. However, her stance conflicted with everything the Creators Guild stands for. We preserve knowledge, push forward the boundaries of magic. We do not involve ourselves in power games and politics. Figuratively speaking, a fisher will never be a good military commander, just like a mage will never be a good politician.
Well, I understand the conflict.
Well, you are an empathetic man, so I would have been surprised if you did not. But these events lie in the past. There is no point in discussing them any further, though I had certainly hoped for a different outcome.
You seem bitter.
As I said, I had hoped for a different outcome.
So, Undergast, when you told me about your split with Lena, I got the feeling that you were more than just colleagues.
You are asking if we were in love. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Then let me start by telling you that the term love is undefined and that theories about it conflict
Ну,
one another.
началось.
I have read a lot of
Почему?
books on it, and I've studied the poems, and I've come to the conclusion that it is ultimately a primitive, carnal urge that people have come to romanticize for the emotions that come with it. I, myself, never felt it, and maybe that was because I saw the underlying mechanisms. I always found it strange how people overreact so strongly to such a simple emotion, and maybe that very fact stopped me from being able to feel these emotions at all.
So, what you're saying is that you were never able to feel love, but then Lena came along and you did.
No, it was not that simple. What stood out in our relationship was that we connected. I've never felt that before. You see, Tahar, to me, the bonds people have always felt peculiar, and I am not like Iana. Her mind simply does not have the ability to feel these bonds anymore. She had them once, but then she lost them, as she became a dreamweaver. My brain is capable of feeling these things, but I am unable to connect with the outside world. I only have my own mind as a frame of reference. For example, when a person tells you yes, whereas he or she means no, you might be able to feel this discrepancy because you are able to empathize with her. I can't. To me, this person's distress would make no sense whatsoever. But then there was Lena. For some bizarre reason, she understood me and I understood her. Or at least, I thought that I did. It was as if this barrier, this shell that separates my mind from others, was pervious, yet it changed me. All at once, I felt connected. Do you know this feeling, Tahar? You have traveled with these people for quite some time now. Is there any...
Well, yes, there is.
I see. Then you probably know how distracting such a feeling can be. To be honest, when I first became aware of that bond between Lena and me, I was horrified. I could not focus anymore. When I sat down to write my studies, I realized after hours that none of what I had written made sense at all.
Am I right to assume that your relationship ended with your disagreement over the Creators Guild abandoning its neutrality?
No, you misunderstand. We never had a relationship. Although the feelings were mutual and we, acted on them. But yes, you are correct. It was the disagreement that broke our bond. Quietly, she left and never...
How do you feel about this?
That is a good question. I still think about her, almost every day. But the more time passes, the more this entire episode starts to feel... I do not know how I would feel if I...
I can imagine.
You have nothing to thank me for. But there is one more thing I would like to ask you.
Tell me.
Do you have regrets? Do you ever feel as if you could and should have acted differently than you did act?
Everybody has regrets.
That seems like a deliberately vague answer. It could indicate that you do have regrets, but it could also indicate that you do not have them. You see, I've never told you this, but I find you're resilient.
How so?
Well, it is no secret that you have endured a lot of pain, especially your early childhood must have made a mark on your psyche. But still, you did not give up.
Well, it wasn't always easy.
Of course not. Either way, I think we have spent enough time.
We should. So long, Undergast.
Так. Кто там у нас еще? Заебали уже эти болтовня. Рохан, Гор и сюжетка еще. Охренеть не, кстати, что запись-то хоть вообще идет. Нет, это подик записи не идет. Я тут болтаю. Идет. Идет же? Идет. Ну где ты там? Прешься.
So, I guess we have some talking to do.
You knew about my mother, didn't you? That's what you hinted at back at the forge, before we set out to the Eye.
Well, the answer is yes, but they weren't enough to go on, and I had no idea your mother was connected to the Bloodburn.
You should have told me.
Is that so? And exactly what should I have told you? That I believe you might be the result of your father's experiments? That you're the offspring of some long-dead... I mean, at best, you wouldn't have believed me. And at worst, it would have cost you your sanity. So no, I don't think I should have told you. I didn't know if these suspicions had...
Well,
Ну я понял.
I guess it doesn't matter anymore.
No. And I didn't get a chance to say this yet, but... I'm glad you made it, Tahar. We need you in this. Tahar, what is it?
I'll be off.
Пойду-ка я отсюда. Гор. Нас ждет Гор. Нас ждет Гор. Гор и сюжетка. Чисто опять болтология, часть. С одной стороны, это круто, это сюжет раскрывает, персонажа раскрывает, но с другой стороны, это болтовня. Магию качать надо, дисциплину. Гири, стрелки, стрелу, молнию.
Ah, Tahar. I never...
Something on your mind?
Well, maybe. Remember when you asked me about rain?
Yeah? What about it?
I want to talk about it. I'm not supposed to, but... Zarek's fangs, this is so silly. I feel like a damn child.
Gore, just spit it out already.
Right. Before becoming a shaman, every disciple has to go through a trial. I told you that I did most of my training in solitude, didn't I? That wasn't true. 5 years after I entered a female named Rain. She was 2 years younger than me.
How did you...
Well, at first, I was a complete dick to her. I was jealous. However, she never took offense by it. She fired back at me when I got childish. As the years went by, we became friends. And no, there was no courting or mating involved, if that's what you're thinking. She was... those years in the Orcish steppes. They were special. We spent days, weeks out in the wild, doing whatever we just had this connection between us, this trust.
But something happened, am I right?
Yeah, the trial did. The sacred test every disciple. Our elder sent us both at the same time, which was unusual. But of course there was plenty of talk about the Iron Trial. And I was scared.
So what happened?
Zarek's fangs. I can't believe I'm telling you this. I'm breaking my oath.
Don't do anything you'd regret later.
I won't. We weren't told much about the trial. Only that we'd have to venture to a cave. They also didn't tell us how to get there. Only that Zarek would guide us. And it was a strange place, Tahar. I saw that right from the beginning. The entrance looked like a mouth, but of course, we went in.
What did you find?
A giant hall. It was as mesmerizing as it was unsettling. There were murals and carvings all over.
Interesting. What?
Nothing. That's what baffled me. Apart from those murals, the hall was completely empty. There were braziers, one in each corner of the hall. Rain was as confused as I was. But because all of a sudden, the exit was gone. No magical noise, nothing. Just in that moment when we looked the wrong direction, it disappeared.
Strange. What did you do?
Well, after we calmed down a little, we assessed our situation. We figured that this was the Iron Trial, and that it was our task to find another exit. So we started. For the next 14 days, we were trapped. We couldn't make that wall disappear, and no matter how long we studied the glyphs, on the 5th day, our provisions had come to an end. Save for half a skin of water and a handful of jerk.
Blazes. How did...
I'm getting there. As you can imagine, the thirst was the worst. It drove us mad, and we searched every corner of that goddamn... Have you ever had thirst, Tahar? Real thirst?
No.
And hope it stays that way. I'd rather bleed out on a pole than expect. On the 11th day, Rain and I were puking our guts out. Our skin had literally started to crack. And I felt it on the 12th day. We were only an inch from...
A dream?
Yes. A shared dream. Almost like a vision. We were still in that hall. Then I saw what was different. The floor was full of blood. And that blood was burning. The murals and that's when I first understood what they were depicting. For some reason...
What did they depict?
It showed what was expected from us. What we had to do to... Sorry this isn't easy. I've dreamed about those weeks ever since. But telling someone...
If this is too hard for you, we can...
Nonsense. Zarek demanded a fight. Either one of us died by the hands of the other, or we would die there together.
So you fought each other?
No. Trial or not, I would have rather died than done that. And that's precisely what I told Rain. A god that demanded, but Rain wouldn't have it. She claimed that if both of us died, both of our lives would be wasted for nothing. I got angry.
I don't know.
She wanted me to kill her. She told me that she was already too weak to make it. Believe me, Tahar, if there had been any strength left in me, I would have punched her just for suggesting it.
And yet, you're...
I am. I should have known before she even did it. It happened when I was asleep. She took my dagger from its sheath, put it into my... When I opened my eyes, her blood was already all over my face. I like to think that she saw it before she died.
Did you make the descent?
I did. There were berries in a mountain goat that had been hit by a rock slide. When I got back to the Elder's shack, I screamed at him. He just listened. In the end, he told me that we had both known what had been at stake. Yet we agreed. He made me a shaman the next day.
I see.
There's one more thing. Remember when you asked me why I feel the way I do about our culture? It's Rain who made me realize that. Most orcs would have fought each other in that cave, to the death. One that I could have made too. If I hadn't been such blazes, it feels strange to have told you all this.
Well, thanks for...
Let me have some time for myself right now, alright? I need to think.
Так, поговорите с Ангаром о дальнейших действиях.
Tahar, ready to discuss the next steps?
Alright, let's discuss what comes next. I'll go get the others.
Good.
Good. Now that you're all here, I'd like to plan how we proceed. As...
Tahar, I think you should allow yourself some more rest. You were in a coma for more than a month, and we still don't know what that melding actually did to you.
Isn't it obvious? It made him more powerful.
Yeah, but where does that power come from? What effect does it have on the human body or the psyche? We don't know.
It doesn't matter if I'm alright or not. We can't waste any more time.
Fine. Then go on.
Thank you. So, our objective is clear. We need to defeat the Purity of Light and save my mother. Angar, am I right to assume that Lacane made Greykeep his new base of operations?
Correct. It's the center of his power, which is both good and bad. It's bad because Greyfell was built to withstand any kind of ambush.
And why is it good?
Because it also means if we succeed and reconquer Greyfell, we'll cut off the snake's head. Once we kill Lacane, the Purity will fall. However, there's no point in fooling ourselves. That battle for Greyfell will be bloody, and if we want to have even the slightest chance of winning, we need to join the remaining houses.
Ultran, Hallet, and Wulfgar.
Yes. If we put this army together with theirs, we might stand a chance. Also, you should see if you can strengthen the alliances you already have, Tahar. I have a plan regarding that, so we can talk further once this meeting has been concluded.
So do I.
Alright, so where do we start?
It's up to you. But before we can even think about arranging a conclave between the houses, we need to break that spell the Harbinger put on my sister Myra. Isgrim, any ideas?
Actually, it should be simple. We need to find the one controlling her, take the rune, and, well, destroy it in the forge.
And who is controlling her? What if it's the Harbinger himself?
I doubt it. The manipulator has to be physically close to his subject, so it'll most likely be someone in Lady Myra's army. But your rune will react to another rune's presence, so once that person is near, you'll feel it.
Good. Then I have a plan. The Harbinger has taken up position in Iskander, between the Utran and the Everlight border. You know that place, Tahar. It's where your father started his rebellion, and where Sentenza almost captured you.
The Loyalist camp. So what's your plan?
We strike in full force and take the castle. He'll be forced to initiate a counterattack, and my sister's armies, the Utran army, will be the closest ones at hand.
A bait.
Yes, we hold the castle against the main army, whereas you, Tahar, and a small troop get behind enemy lines. You find the rune carrier and strike from the shadows. Obviously, you'll have to act quick. We can't hold against the entire Utran army forever.
Alright. So we take over the castle, wait for the Utran armies to cross the border, sneak behind our lines, and eliminate the rune carrier. And once Lady Myra is freed, we will try to gain the support of House Hallett and House Wulfgar.
Yes, though we'll need to take care of something else before that.
Agreed. One more thing. This will be dangerous, and our original mission has been completed. In other words, if any of you are thinking of leaving, now is the time. Well, then we best get prepared now. I'll tell you when we head out.
Understood. Tahar, I'd also like to talk with you if you have a moment.
Да-да-да. Кто опять? Чё опять прибежали?
Corporal Tahar. A word, if you will?
Who are you?
Private Miller, Corporal. I'm from the Royal Army and came here with the Lord Marshal. We've captured someone who we suspect belongs to the Purity. He was seen in the deserted village outside this city. and he looks suspicious. He claims to be a simple courier sent to deliver a message to you, but we didn't want to take any risks. He's outside, near the entrance to the caves.
I see. Thank you, soldier. Dismissed.
Corporal?
Поддержку. Твою мать. Чё, опять надо что-то будет говорить? Ладно. Люди, эльф, поддержку эльфов мы будем. У эльфов лучники прикольненькие. Так, окей, ну ладно. Все, на этом мы болтовню заканчиваем в этой части. В следующей части мы пойдем говорить с Ианной, там как заручиться поддержкой эльфов, наверное. Ну а с вами был JB, спасибо, что смотрели эту болтологию. Увидимся с вами совсем скоро в следующей части. Удачи вам, пока-пока.